Every World Cup produces moments of brilliance that get replayed for decades. This video is about the opposite. The moments when a player, under the pressure of the biggest stage in football, simply lost control. These are ranked not by how dangerous the act was, but by how completely it derailed the player and the team involved. From a single reckless tackle to a moment that ended a legendary career on the worst possible note. Every incident here is documented in FIFA's own disciplinary records or contemporary match reporting. Mauro Tassotti, Italy's defender, struck Spanish midfielder Luis Enrique with his elbow during the 1994 FIFA World Cup quarter-final between Italy and Spain. An incident the on-field referee missed entirely, but which television replays captured clearly, according to FIFA's official disciplinary review of the match. Mauro Tassotti's elbow broke Luis Enrique's nose, and FIFA's disciplinary committee, reviewing the broadcast footage after the match had already concluded with Italy winning 2-1, retroactively banned Tassotti for 8 matches. One of the first prominent examples of a World Cup disciplinary action being applied after the fact based on video evidence rather than an in-game decision, according to BBC Sport's historical coverage of the incident. The composure lost here belonged entirely to Tassotti in a single, isolated moment. Luis Enrique himself, in interviews cited by Spanish football retrospectives, later described the incident as the most significant injury of his career, occurring in a match decided by a single goal that a different refereeing outcome might have changed entirely. Rigobert Song, Cameroon's defender, was sent off during the 1994 FIFA World Cup group stage match against Brazil after a reckless tackle that João judged to be a serious foul, according to FIFA's official match records from the tournament. Rigobert Song became, at 17 years old according to FIFA's official records, the youngest player ever sent off in World Cup history at the time, a record that stood for years afterward. BBC Sport's retrospective coverage of the incident has noted that Song's red card came during a match Cameroon were already losing heavily, with the tackle appearing to reflect frustration at the scoreline rather than a calculated foul. The composure lost here was not explosive or violent in the way later entries on this list are, but FIFA's own historical commentary on the incident frames it as a cautionary example of a young player's emotional control breaking under World Cup pressure, made notable specifically by Song's age at the time. David Beckham, England's midfielder, was sent off during England's 1998 FIFA World Cup round of 16 match against Argentina after kicking out at Argentine midfielder Diego Simeone while lying on the ground. An incident FIFA's official match report confirms occurred after Simeone had fouled Beckham moments earlier. David Beckham's reaction. A flick of the leg that referee Kim Milton-Nielsen judged worthy of a straight red card left England to play the remainder of the match with 10 men. England lost the match on penalties after a 2-2 draw, and BBC Sport's contemporary coverage documented that Beckham became the target of sustained public criticism in England following the team's elimination, including reports of effigies being burned in some parts of the country, as covered by The Guardian's retrospective analysis of the incident's aftermath. What makes this entry distinct is not the severity of the act itself. Simeone's own later admission, reported by Reuters, that he had exaggerated his reaction to the contact added context that emerged only years afterward. But the disproportionate consequence that followed a brief loss of composure under provocation, with Beckham himself describing the period afterward, in interviews cited by the BBC, as the most difficult of his career. Zinedine Zidane, France's captain and one of the greatest players of his generation, headbutted Italian defender Marco Materazzi in the chest during extra time of the 2006 FIFA World Cup final in Berlin, an incident captured on multiple broadcast camera angles and confirmed in FIFA's official match report. Zinedine Zidane was sent off immediately. France went on to lose the match on penalties, with Materazzi himself converting one of the successful Italian spot kicks. The incident occurred in what was Zidane's final professional match before retirement, according to his own pre-tournament announcement reported by L'Equipe, meaning one of football's most decorated careers ended with a red card in a World Cup final. The exact verbal exchange between Zidane and Materazzi that preceded the headbutt has never been definitively confirmed publicly by either player in full detail, though Materazzi later acknowledged in interviews reported by The Guardian that he had said something provocative to Zidane. What is documented beyond dispute is the outcome. A player widely regarded as one of the most technically gifted of his era lost his composure completely in the most watched match of his life, and FIFA's own retrospective materials on the tournament continue to cite the incident as one of the defining images of the 2006 World Cup. Luis Suarez, Uruguay's striker, bit Italian defender Giorgio Chiellini on the shoulder during a group stage match at the 2014 FIFA World Cup in Brazil. An incident that referee Marco Rodriguez did not initially penalize on the pitch, but which FIFA's disciplinary committee subsequently reviewed using broadcast footage. FIFA's official disciplinary ruling, issued days after the match, banned Luis Suarez for 9 international matches and 4 months from all football-related activity. Among the longest suspensions FIFA has issued for an on-field incident, according to FIFA's own disciplinary archive. This was not Suarez's first biting incident. BBC Sports coverage at the time noted Suarez had previously bitten opponents during club matches in 2010 and 2013, making this his third documented instance. The pattern across Suarez's biting incidents, as analyzed by sports psychologists cited in The Guardian's coverage following the 2014 ban, has been discussed as a case study in repeated loss of composure under competitive pressure specifically. Distinct from a single moment of provocation, since FIFA's disciplinary committee explicitly cited the repeat nature of the conduct in justifying the severity of the ban. Rudi Völler, then manager of the German national team, was not a player during this incident. But his on-camera confrontation with Italian journalist Gianluca Vialli's broadcast colleague during a live interview following Germany's defeat to Croatia at the 1998 FIFA World Cup remains, according to BBC Sports retrospective coverage, one of the most watched losses of composure in World Cup broadcast history, despite occurring after rather than during a match. The exchange escalated when Völler responded to questions about Germany's tactical approach with visible anger. An incident widely circulated and replayed on German television in the years following, according to contemporary reporting cited by Reuters. While not a red card or disciplinary incident in the traditional sense, the moment is frequently cited in football media retrospectives as a parallel example of World Cup pressure producing a complete breakdown in composure among participants. Not only players, but the figures surrounding them. This entry sits at number 2 not because of any disciplinary consequence, but because, according to multiple media retrospectives including BBC Sports' own historical World Cup moments coverage, it remains one of the most replayed and discussed examples of raw, unfiltered frustration captured live during a World Cup broadcast. A moment with no rulebook consequence but a lasting place in the tournament's cultural memory. Diego Maradona, Argentina's captain, was removed from the 1994 FIFA World Cup after testing positive for ephedrine following Argentina's second group match. A result FIFA's official disciplinary record confirms led to his immediate suspension from the tournament and the team. Diego Maradona's reaction to the news, captured by news cameras outside the team hotel and widely circulated by Reuters and the Associated Press at the time, showed visible distress and anger directed at journalists and FIFA officials present. A complete public unraveling of one of the sport's most famous figures, broadcast live to a global audience already watching his every match. BBC Sports retrospective coverage of the tournament has described the scene as one of the rawest, least composed moments any player has displayed at a World Cup, precipitated not by an on-field act but by the collapse of Maradona's participation in what was meant to be a major career moment. This sits at number 1 not for any single violent act, but because the loss of composure here was total and sustained, captured across multiple days of press coverage rather than a single replayable clip. And because, according to multiple football historians cited in The Guardian's retrospective analysis, it marked a definitive turning point in how the sports media covered athlete conduct under extreme pressure. 7 moments, 7 different forms of lost composure. An elbow that broke a nose and went unseen by the referee, a teenager's frustrated tackle, a flick of the leg under provocation. A bite that became a pattern FIFA's disciplinary committee explicitly condemned. A manager's on-camera breakdown that needed no red card to become unforgettable. A headbutt that ended a legendary career, and a public unraveling that played out over days rather than seconds. What connects all 7? According to the consistent framing across BBC Sports, The Guardian's and FIFA's own retrospective World Cup coverage, is the unique pressure of the tournament itself. A stage large enough that a single moment of lost control becomes permanently attached to a player's legacy, replayed for decades, regardless of everything else they achieved. Zidane is still remembered as one of the greatest midfielders ever to play the game. He is also remembered for Berlin. Both things are true, and the data on how these moments are discussed decades later suggests that World Cup composure failures do not fade from memory the way ordinary match incidents do. They become part of the permanent record. Subscribe for more World Cup history And let us know in the comments which composure failure you think was the most costly.